So this is going to be a difficult one to do, but I feel like it's important for the transgender people in Texas because that's where we used to live before we moved to Oklahoma. And Oklahoma has its problems too, and it has its transphobia and it's very transphobic decision makers, but it has a much stronger support system than I had there, and it has less of the transphobic laws that Texas does. For instance, some of the things that they're able to get by with, they're transphobic, that people who are not trans, who have not experienced this, may not know about. Um, Sorry, this one's a little hard for me to discuss. It's been a little difficult. Um, so we absolutely adore our kids. That's why I don't put them up on YouTube or anything, because I respect their privacy and I want my kids to be safe and I want things to be private for them. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about this situation, just enough to get the gist of it. So we were in Texas, and um, we got a call, or my partner got a call, and then called me that CPS was coming, and this was shortly after I'd come out. I think I'd been out for like a few months, I believe, and CPS was coming, and we'd never ever had CPS called on us. Uh, we absolutely adore our kids. We're peaceful parents. We've never hit our children, and never ever will. And we don't even do timeouts. We do time ins, and we talk to our kids, and we try to get them to understand that we will never ever hurt them, and we reiterate that to them, that we would never hurt them, and if anybody ever does, come to us, come to your dads and tell us. And so this really hurt and shocked me, and I didn't understand what was going on. I thought, have I been feeding them the wrong balance of meals? Have I been doing something wrong? Have I not been giving them a high enough dose of vitamins? What am I doing wrong? And I was racking my brain about it because I was trying to think what what a bad dad I am, because I don't see what I'm doing wrong. Why is CPS being called? And they came, and I thought to myself, there's something just kind of weird with the way that this person is acting towards us. And I thought, surely this isn't about what I think it might be about. It can't be that. Surely it can't be that. And she talks to one of our kids mostly, and because she thought there was something up with one of our kids, that you wouldn't think that people would be this stupid about trans people, honestly, but Texas is horrible to trans people. But she did the interview with just me after she talked to my kids and to my partner, and she hadn't told them this part until until she told me what was going on. Then she told everybody else, but she wanted to tell me first. She said, "So we got a complaint that you have been forcing your child to take HRT. You've been forcing your child to take trans hormones." I said, "No, no, why would you ever say that? Why would anybody ever say that? I'm trans." And she said, "Yes, we know." And we had a complaint that you were forcing your child to take hormones. And I said, "Trans parents don't want to force their kids to take anything, and I would never force my kid to take hormones." And I actually kind of deeply in my heart, I want my kids to be themselves, but I'm also scared about what happens if they're like me and they get treated like I have. And so there's this fear that you have when you're a trans dad or a trans parent, that your kids are going to be treated like you if it turns out they're trans. And so you have kind of this thought in your brain, like, I hope that you kind of hope that they're just not going to get bullied, and so you don't want to push them to be trans because you've been bullied for so long, and you don't want them to go through that. If they are trans, you support them, but you're afraid that they're going to be bullied, so you're definitely not going to push your kids to be trans, and you don't want to push your kids to be trans if they aren't, because that would be pushing away from their own identity. And we went into all this knowing this, and tried to be as clear about that as we could. And I was shocked when she told me this. I said, "I don't understand why anyone would ever say that." And I said, "No, I do understand. It's because I'm trans." And they just assume that because I'm trans, I'm going to force my children to be trans too. And that's the problem with these lies that are spread, that people think that every trans person They think that trans people, which we are not doing, are forcing kids to be trans. We are not forcing children to be trans. There are kids who know who they are. I knew who I was from an early age, but I didn't think I could come out. I thought every time I had that thought pop in my head, you're a boy, you're a boy, it would automatically be met with what I had heard in the church and what I'd heard people say about trans people. And I was like, I can't even say that because if I say that, I'll go to hell. And so I stayed in the closet. But we've always been very open with our kids that if they are queer, if they're trans, they can come to us and we'll always love and accept them. And it hurt me when this person said that because if my kids are cis and straight, I want them to know I love and accept them for being cis and straight. And I told her all this. I said, we love our children. We would never, ever do that to them. And she said, well, we talked to one of your kids, and it was kind of the way that they sat and the way they did their hair. It was very hard. It was very hard hearing all this because I had to sit there and debunk all these myths about trans people when I was just trying to raise my family with my partner. And I would never, ever force my kid to be trans. But we get CPS called on us and we get that accusation because people don't want to understand. They don't want to see past the lies that people like Trump tell about trans people. And they don't want to see the fact that we don't have an agenda other than don't die. We don't have any agenda, but we want to be whole and we want to get the health care that everybody deserves to be whole. There's not even the insurance that covers top surgery that I can find here. I'm in Oklahoma now. I can't even find that. I have nightmares every night because of my dysphoria. I would never force my kid to go through that, ever, ever. We would love and support them if they were, but to go through all this pain and then force my kid to go through all that pain too if they weren't trans, no, no. And kids are not being given hormones, HRT, like adults are. They're given puberty blockers, which are reversible. My kids have never been on these because they're not trans. They have never come to us saying that they're trans. They accept me and they love me as their dad for being trans, but they have never made any indication that they are. If it turns out that they are, we will love and accept them for that. But it really hurts that nobody can picture a trans person being a parent unless they also picture them forcing their kids to all be trans. And it hurts because that's what they do. They want to force their kids to all be cis. And we don't. We don't want to do that because we know how painful it is to try to force a child to be cis. And we don't want to repeat that. We want to be able to raise our kids with the knowledge that we were kids once too. And we would never force them to take something, especially something that is not even for their age and that hadn't been approved by a doctor. If it turned out that our kids were trans, we would move somewhere that was more understanding with a doctor that could help them with age-appropriate treatments. People don't understand. They don't try to look a little bit past all the prejudice and the transphobia. This CPS worker should have known better. CPS should have known better. You get a complaint like that in Texas, they're going to come and investigate you, and they're going to take the complaint seriously. And it's messed up. But I'm talking about this because I want people to know that trans people in Texas are having a very hard time right now. We don't live in Texas anymore. We live in Oklahoma now. And it's rough here too, but it's especially hard in Texas right now. And I'm just thinking of all of the trans families, the trans parents like us that are trying to convince people and break these myths just so they can raise their families. Because what I have to worry about every day, the main thing that we have to worry about is, are the kids going to like dinner? Are they going to like this new recipe I'm trying? That's what I want to be able to worry about, rather than have to worry about, are these people going to accuse me of forcing my child to take HRT so that I can turn them all into little cult trans people? We aren't doing that. I just want to know how to take care of my kids the best of my ability, and so does my partner. And we want to give them a life that they understand that they're loved and accepted for who they are. And they understand that. Heck, when my son told me that he's straight, he treated it like coming out. It's like, Dad, I'm straight. And that's okay. We love him anyway. We love our children. We would never, ever, ever force them to be anything that they're not. And that's including being trans. And people who are trans know what I'm talking about because we know how painful it can be and how people act and how that CPS worker acted, how the person who reported this, whoever that was, how they acted. We know how it feels, and we're not gonna put kids through that. I just wish that people would see past the lies and that they would try to think a little bit. They'd use their brain a little bit, just a little bit, and try to think about the logic behind that. Just try to think about what you'd do if you were in our shoes. Thank you.